Hey guys, it's Kate 420, and today I'm bringing you a case that has had me wrapped up for weeks. Um, I'm a person that likes to, do my research and get the video out and get their voice heard as soon as possible. This is as soon as I could get this out because I have been literally neck deep in this case. This started out with the sub asking me to look into someone that they knew, and that would be this girl right here, victim right here, Megan Waterman. And that I couldn't just look into Megan because Megan's story can't be told unless we talk about these other girls, unless their names and their stories are told as well. So I had to get to know each of their stories. I had to get to know each and every one of their days leading up to their going missing. And I think that you'll enjoy learning about this video or learning about this case, but at the same time, prepare to get caught up. Prepare to want to dig deeper because everything and anything that could have happened to the poor victims, families in this case, it's almost like a nightmare for these families. It's happened. So, without further ado, let's get on with it. Okay, our story starts with Shannan Gilbert. Shannan Gilbert was originally reported missing. I want to say it was May 1st, but let's get to that because there's a whole story behind all this. Shannan Gilbert was just a bright-eyed social butterfly that had big, big dreams. Shannan wanted to be a famous singer, and straight out of high school, she had no fears of moving to New York City and following that dream, which she did. There was nothing her mother could do to stop her because she was an adult and legal, and basically nothing that could be said could stop Shannan from wanting to go to New York, where all stars, have their start. Excuse me. She was last seen on May 1st, 2010. What happened between the time Shannan moved to New York to be a singer in May 1st, 2010 was it what happened to a lot of girls in Shannan's very situation. In many big cities, in many small urban areas, wherever, all over the United States, all over the world, this seems to be happening. When women either feel like they have no other choice or are in a position where they have to pay the bills, so a lot of them resort to their bodies. The problem with the story is because that was their profession at the time, because the families were honest with the police about it, it would be the reason why many of these girls' missing persons cases were not taken seriously, and maybe the reason why they weren't found soon enough. So, Shannan Gilbert on the night of May 1st, 2005. 2010. Her driver, Michael Pack, she had a driver that would take her to her jobs. She got a phone call from a man named Joseph Brewer in Oak Beach. And he wanted Shannan to come over and for a date, whatnot. And so Michael Pack, her driver, took her to the date. About an hour and a half after being inside, there was a 911 call. Shannan was apparently upstairs in the house hiding. The 911 call was 22 minutes long. In this 911 call, Shannan tells the operator that they're plotting to kill her. She's, terrified, hysterical. She's freaking out that they're plotting to kill her. Please help me. And she doesn't know where she is. She feels like she's drugged up, so on and so forth. But my first question when I started, and the very first thing that was off to me was a 22-minute phone call to 911. Normally, it doesn't matter if you don't know where you are. At that point, 911 has located you. Even in 2010, that was available. So that kind of throws me off. It makes me wonder if 911 was taking her serious. On the phone to 911, you can hear, closer to the end of the call, you can hear her driver, Michael Pack, and you can also hear Joseph Brewer. You cannot make out exactly what's being said, but Joseph Brewer later said he was telling her driver to get her out of his house. Upon him telling her to leave multiple times and whatnot, somehow Shannan made it out of the house, off the phone with 911, and basically was running down this gated community in Oak Beach. Okay, down the road. But those were not the last people to see Shannan. Shannan ran to a neighbor, Gus Coletti's home at 5 a.m. and knocked on his door. Hysterically, she told him that people were trying to kill her. He had her come in. He had her sit down. He told her to relax. He called 911. He told them the location. Okay. She was there for a few minutes. He told her to just relax. So the police came. She started to freak out. She got up. She ran out of his house. It took over an hour for police to come. And even in between that, Gus happened to see, when she ran out of his home, a black SUV follow slowly after her. Now, he at the time did not know that Michael Pack was the driver of that SUV, and that he swears he was just trying to get Shannan in the car to take her home, and that after she ran off Gus Coletti's house, that he couldn't find her, and he ended up looking for her for about another hour and then left. So, police came a full hour later, and they did not search for Shannan. And she did tell the 911 operator who the they were that was trying to kill her, and that even though that name has never been released, the families were never told. All they were told was that person was given a lie detector test, and the results were inconclusive. So I'm not quite sure why that aspect of things has never been looked into any further. But of course, nobody that's researching the case could really find that out, because they're keeping that information locked up. You're going to find that in the Long Island serial killer case, which is what they call this case, you're going to find obstruction from the police department, Suffolk County PD, all the way through. You're going to find the families being treated terribly. You're going to find obstruction. You're going to find the families being left out in the dark for years and years. So just be prepared, because this story is not done, which is why I'm here talking about it. So, the search for Shannan ignited, basically the search for Shannan Gilbert brought about a discovery. It was not the discovery of Shannan, but if it had not been for her search, these 4 young ladies would not have been found. Come on. It always takes a minute when I'm recording, guys. Sorry. Come on. All right. Well, I tried. I may end up just having to keep going because a lot of times it's weird. I notice a lot of times on this screen recorder thing I have, depending on how many tabs I have up, that like videos don't play, which kind of sucks because, but at the same time, it's not a big deal. I can read it. So this is really, like I said, what happened is during the search for Shannan, I'll come back to that. Hold on here. There was a discovery of 4 young ladies. Hang on here. Here we go. We talked about, this is Shannan's story right here. And then here it is. Okay. The first major discovery took place on December 11th, 2010. It was a cold and windy day. Officer John Maleo was out on a training exercise with his cadaver dog Blue, searching for Shannan in a strip of brush just off Ocean Parkway at Gilgo Beach, 6 miles west of Oak Beach. Both beaches are located on a string of barrier islands separating the massive Long Island from the Atlantic Ocean. To the north, across South Oyster Bay, are the Long Island suburbs of Massapequa and Amityville. Farther east are the waspy enclaves of the Hamptons, but the stretch along Ocean Parkway is mostly state park, poison ivy choked scrub brush, marshland, and beaches, with the occasional cluster of homes hugging the shoreline. During the winter, it's practically deserted. Around 3 p.m., Blue caught a scent and led Malaya through a dense thicket into a spot 30 feet from the road. There was what Malaya described as some burlap in most of the skeleton. Returning to the area 2 days later, Malaya and Blue found 3 more sets of remains, all of them 30 feet from the road, 500 feet apart, draped in burlap. The following day, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Richard Dormer made an announcement. I don't think it's a coincidence that 4 bodies ended up in this area. We could have a serial killer. And then, according to Vernon Gilbert, the retired commander of the Bronx Homicide Task Force, he says that they investigated numerous serial killers and the clustering of victims was strange. Most serial killers don't do that. They spread the remains around. This guy felt so secure at this location, he made it his burial ground. The one thing I want to bring up is that the families of these girls were very upset by the numerous media and newspaper articles and all the discussions about the young ladies, and not referring to them as just young women taken at the prime of their life, but referring to them as escorts or prostitutes. And because of that, it's been very hard on the families to, I can't think about it. It's very hard on the families to hear the word escort or prostitute be the last thing describing a child that they just lost, that they just found was dead, that they had high hopes was just out there living her life somewhere and just wasn't getting a hold of the family. So anyway, Shannan had a sister named Sarah. She has two sisters, Sarah and Sherry, and her mother Marie was very vocal about, like I said, it says Shannan Gilbert was a girl with issues. She bounced around from foster home to foster home and was diagnosed bipolar. But she seemed to have settled into normalcy in high school, where she excelled, graduating early at age 16. And then it says, we did all the Shannan stuff. I kind of wanted to, well, I'm going to go back to it. I just want to make sure that we move on to the girls that were found and then back to Shannan, because Shannan is a major part of this case. But again, they each so let's start with I want to address the victims really quick, and oops, and I'm going to do it, and I have something at the end, but I have the map as well. I just I want you guys to see their faces, all of them, because they all deserve that, just like in the beginning of the video. When I talk about them, I want them to be more than just that. So, here we go. We'll pull this one up first. I'm gonna go. Okay. Oops. There we go. All right. So victim A was, the very first girl found is right here, Melissa Bartholomew. So let's talk about her first, because she was the first found. Melissa Bartholomew was 24 years old. She moved to New York City to be a hairdresser and got mixed up in escorting. Okay, she was last seen. Do they have her? I don't think they have a date on her. But I know that the family attempted to make a missing person report, and again, New York City police were very rude and not serious about looking for her. Because why? Because of her title, because of what she did for a living, not because of that she was a 24-year-old girl and they have daughters. They didn't think about those things. The thing about Melissa Bartholomew's case is that Melissa had a sister that shortly after her sister went missing, the sister started receiving calls from Melissa's phone. Only it was a man on the other end. As excited as she was and thought it was her sister, the first time she answered it, it was a man on the other end. And that man claimed that he had killed her sister and that he knew where she was. He was coming for her and her mother, and just terrible. There was multiple phone calls, and I'm just really not sure how police were not able to use the information collected from the multiple phone calls this guy made to the sister with Melissa's phone. I don't know how that couldn't have been used to investigate this further. Victim B was Amber Lynn Costello. Right here. Okay. She was second found. She's 27 years old. She had a drug addiction, and this is per her roommate, which she escorted to support her addiction. Her roommate said that she left for the date. He had heard the date person call for a date, and she did something that she never does. She walked out the door and she left her phone, her purse, everything that would identify her, whatever. She walked out the door with just herself. And she was missing for 3 months before he finally reported her missing, because no one in her family had done so. They were not even looking for her. Victim C is Megan Waterman. Megan Waterman, 22 years old, from Maine, had a boyfriend who was actually her pimp, and he began selling her on Backpage and Craigslist, and he would drive her from Maine to New York City, and they'd be gone for a week or two and then come back. Her mother would say, she basically, Amber has a 2-year-old daughter. Amber was a good mother. Her mother said, she got caught up with the wrong guy and, fell into a trap that a lot of girls fall into, especially when that guy says he loves you and you fall in love, and then now he wants you to sell your body to show your love. So anyway, Megan was last seen on 6/6/2010 at a Holiday Inn in Hauppauge, New York. Here's a strange thing, guys. Megan did the same thing Amber did, which was completely out of her character. Megan walked out of the hotel and down the main road as far as the hotel cameras could see her. And she left that room with nothing. She left the room with no cell phone, nothing, no purse, no ID, no nothing that could say this is who I am. Which is something that, again, she had never done on dates, whatnot. They learn things real quick as escorts. They tell each other tips to keep each other safe, and that, always having a phone and whatnot on you is one of them. So victim D was Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Maureen Brainerd Barnes from Norwich, Connecticut. I don't have a lot on her except for that her family the local PD ignored family pleas to report her missing due to her going to New York to escort. She also was a mother. She also has sister and a mother who, actively are part of this case and want answers. So let's keep going here. That's not it. Not that far yet. All right, let's see here. Now, I want to explain this to you because there's a total of 17 victims that were found during the search of 7 miles of beach. There was 10 in the area where the 4 girls were found, and that's we're going to go through it. The 4 girls here. Then there was an unidentified Asian male who was dressed as a woman. Then here's Jessica Taylor, who was 20. Her hands and head were found on the beach, where her torso was found miles away with this unidentified Jane Doe number 6. Jane Doe number 6 was put to rest right next to a toddler age girl who the police thought was the child of maybe Jane Doe number 6, but ended up being the child of an unidentified female found 7 miles down the beach. And if you go down, they show the rest of the victims that were found all the way up and down the beach. And then, of course, what I have not told you is that Shannan was eventually found. We're going to get to her in a minute. Let's go down here because it's time to talk about what was found out about Shannan, okay? Because Shannan wasn't found where the girls were found that were suspected to be victims of the serial killer. Okay, let's see here. The Gilgo Beach Killer is the 4th fiend to slay prostitutes on Long Island since 1989. So cops have been down this road before. They had a couple persons of interest, obviously. Let's see here. Collectively, I'm trying to get you to John Bitroff, the carpenter from Manorville, who was charged with strangling 2 prostitutes. They kind of looked at him at first, but whatever happened, they what do you call it? They figured out that it wasn't him. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Anyway, then they also looked into a pair of NYPD cops who got in trouble for frequenting prostitutes, and James Bissett, a wealthy Long Island businessman who owned a nursery and killed himself in 2011. Rumors swirled about the motives for his suicide, but investigators say he's been crossed off the list of suspects. Cops also cleared Brewer, the client who hired Shannan the night she died. And Hackett was okay. This is the thing. I want to tell you really quick where Shannan was. Shannan was found 7 miles down this beach, but the thing that you can't see from here or on this thing is that Shannan was found. Her clothes and shoes, or excuse me, her pants and shoes, her whole bottom half, clothes and shoes, were found in one area. Shannan was found 1.5 miles further down. Yet they claim she was not a victim of the serial killer, that she died of strangulation, and that her clothes came off in the brush. But yet she kept going another 1.5 miles with no shoes and no clothes on, and that thick brush poison ivy stuff. So there's a lot of questions about why they wouldn't, include Shannan Gilbert's case in the serial killer, and with the, and say that she was a victim of the same thing that the other people had been a victim of. Anyway, it says it's been 4 years and they've not got too much to show for it. And it says Suffolk County cops will say nothing, and that's a big thing. The families keep saying, we keep calling, we're begging, why haven't you given us any updates? And they just basically blow them off completely. The department is not commenting at this time. They'll say, so on and so forth. Being left in the dark has infuriated some of the families. All they say is that when they find the killer, I'll be the first to know, says Marie Ducharme, the mother of victim Maureen Brainerd Barnes. They're lying. They're saying that to keep me satisfied. Ducharme slammed the police for how they've conducted their probe, which has been plagued by unfound rumors, misinformation, public specs among officials, flip-flopping theories, and probers vacillating between there being 1 or 2 murderers. It's one, police say now. If they had done a good job, they would have found the killer already. Yeah. And then it says, within days of unearthing Bartholomew's remains, police found the bodies of 3 more call girls. It's always, I can't just say 3 more young women. So that's another thing is the toddler child. That's a big, to kill a toddler child, to kill a child is so infuriating. All these women some of these girls are still children themselves. Now, in 2013, the remains of 31-year-old Natasha Gilgo washed up onto a Gilgo beach, June 2013. The cops are still studying her case to determine whether it's in connection with the others. It says NYPD did their best to pinpoint the calls to the crowded areas of Midtown Manhattan when the guy was calling the sister threatening to kill her with the dead girl's phone. So it says right here they tried to pinpoint the calls, but they just couldn't find him. They also believe the killer turned on the phone once in Massapequa, a town just 10 miles from Gilgo. So let's get back to where I was, because here we go. Cops cleared Brewer, the client who hired Shannan on the night she died, and Hackett, Peter Hackett is a doctor who inserted himself in this case by calling Shannan's mother and saying, first saying that he knew Shannan and he wanted to help her find Shannan and all these things. Oops. and ended up he told her that he ran a wayward home for girls, and somehow something came out about him medicating Shannan that night. But he denies it all. Once he was confronted by a news crew, he got a lawyer, he clamped down, but he's been cleared as well. In Hackett, the neighbor whom Marie Gilbert turned away her distraught daughter, but not before drugging her. Oh yeah, he said he turned her away after he drugged her and told her to get out. Brewer admits he hired Gilbert, who was in his house for 3 hours, but claimed the two never had sex. She fled his home in paranoid terror after taking large quantities of drugs. Hackett claims he gave Gilbert a medicine to calm her down and tried to reach her family to get help, but no one came and she ran off. Brewer continued to live under a cloud, a self-published Roman Confessions of the Oak Beach suspicions on character Damon Brooks, who bears a strong resemblance to Brewer. The Brooks character beats up a prostitute. Okay, so who really is the Gilgo Beach killer, and will the police ever catch him? The best chance so far may have come to Times Square, not Long Island, soon after Bartholomew vanished in 2009. That's the phone call thing. That's the guy. When NYPD, working with Lynn, triangulated one of the killer's calls to the tourist mecca, rushed in, dashing into porn shops and other locations in a frantic bid to nail him. But he never stayed on the phone for more than 3 minutes, and soon he stopped calling. That's terrible. Now, in Megan Waterman's case, some other stuff happened. There was an arrest of the pimp. Akeem Malik Cruz went to prison for taking Megan Waterman to New York to prostitute her on the weekend she disappeared, which I think is, this right here is all credit to Megan Waterman's mother and supporters for making sure that the man who got her into that life and that did not protect her that night is the one that it bears at least some responsibility for her being in that ground. It basically goes on. Oh, there's Megan right there. Now that I found out who I am, personal feelings have got involved. Cruz told the judge, I've served the time for the decisions I've made. I'm not the same person anymore. Cruz pleaded guilty to interstate pimping and a federal charge in New York in 2013 connection with Waterman and got a 3-year sentence. After his release on probation, a warrant was issued for his arrest in September for failure to appear in New York on allegations he violated the terms of his probation. Cruz was animated in court, speaking out, though he was reminded by the judge of his right to remain silent. Cruz and Kelly asked Kelly to remove Elam from the new case, but Kelly denied his request. There's a lot of stuff here. I think we can be sure he's coming back to Maine because he has Meg Elam on the case. Attorney Elam is on Mr. Cruz like white on rice. It says Kelly set Cruz's bail at $500 cash with conditions that he not be in a vehicle with any unrelated females, that he's not to be in a hotel or motel or any other transient facility with any unrelated females. And as of Wednesday evening, Cruz had not made bail. If he does, he will remain. If he does, he will remain in federal custody. Okay. This is the funeral for Shannan Gilbert. There's Shannan's mom in the front, Marie, and there's Shannan's sisters, Sarah and Sherry, and then this is Shannan, the lawyer, who's representing this case, the case for the mother. I can't. I'll tell you his name in a minute. I can't think. Let's see. I don't see it. They don't put like a name, list of names up there, but anyway, I know that. We're gonna get into it. You'll see. There's some things that everybody's life was affected by this, guys. Everyone, the victims' families were victimized over and over again by the police department, by the feds, by just Chilling finds links LI dumping grounds. What? Sorry, I'm just reading. I don't think I had that one up. All right, here we go. So what happened after this case? Well, gruesome details. Mental illness defense. Opening trial of the Ellenville woman who killed her mother. Shannan's younger sister, Sarah, had mental health problems as well. And after years of trying to find her sister's killer, she had lost custody of her son recently for trying to drowning her pit bull puppy. And while out on bail or probation or whatnot for that, she had got her mother to come over to the house alone without her boyfriend and all that. She knew how to con her mom. She knew exactly what to say to con her. And Sarah Gilbert ended up stabbing her mother 227 times, you guys. That's insane. Beat her with a fire extinguisher and tried to drown her with the foam. Ultimately attempted to decapitate her, all because she thought she was an evil god. The lawyer who represented the mother in Shannan's case, Ray, is also now representing Sarah in her murder case. And of course, that's been finished now. They did not let her mental illness stuff change their minds. They ended up sentencing her to 25 to life. Oops, sorry. Here we go. Sarah Gilbert is sentenced to 25 years to life in prison in the stabbing death of mother. And this lawyer even says she's going to kill somebody in prison. He says she will kill somebody in there. There's no doubt in his mind that she will kill somebody in prison. And it's sad because, this was a girl who maybe if her sister hadn't been found dead and brutalized, that she would still be here today as well as the mother. So this is the next thing. Let's see. Wrong one. Take a couple of these down. That way I can maybe play a video in a minute. But I started looking into these girls individually, the lives they had before that, and it's just very strange how there's still it wasn't like they were hidden miles back in. They were 35 feet from the road. There's got to be more information out there and that's why I believe the officer has something to do with it. And I'll tell you why. There's a lot of things here that happened other than just a girl trying to kill her mother. I'm almost there, guys. Sorry. Let me just get this done. There's other people who had other situations as well. Okay, Let's try that. The strange rise and fall of the Long Island's dirtiest police chief. It says, it says, the former Suffolk County police chief, James Burks, and then James Burke was the police chief, and Dorman was the commissioner at the time, and they just, everything they did seemed like it had its own agenda. Former Suffolk County Chief James Burke recent conviction of civil rights charges opened a window into a lurid cop culture of illegal wiretapping, cover-ups, sex addiction, drunk driving, and blackmail. And on December 14th, 2012, cops arrest 26-year-old named Christopher Loeb outside his mother's house in New York, slammed his thin body to the ground, started roughing him up, and when his mother Jane arrived, the officers relented and drove. When his mother Jane arrived, the officers relented and drove him to the Suffolk County Police Department 4th Precinct in nearby Hapog, where they chained him to a floor. Loeb was kept in the dark about his arrest and denied access to a lawyer. But it soon dawned on him that the treatment might have something to do with a black duffel bag he'd recently stolen from the backseat of an unlocked black 2008 GMC Yukon. Right. Yeah. A heroin user who dabbled in burglary to support his habit. Loeb had found things in the bag that might have belonged to a police officer: handcuffs, mace, and a gun. But he also found things that pointed to something much darker, like porn that appeared to him to be prepubescent boys. And according to court documents, James Burke, the then police chief of Suffolk County, derived pleasure from presiding over the continued abuse of Loeb at the police station. He told his fellow officers with an air of wistfulness later on that it reminded him of his old days coming up in the force. He jokingly called the cops who aided him in subduing Loeb his palace guards. Oops. Wow. And then one of these men allegedly told Loeb he was going to rape his mother during the beating. Oops. Wow. Burke even threatened to murder Loeb with a hot shot or a fatal overdose of heroin that might later be arranged to appear self-inflicted. Of all things you could tell this man. Wow. So, hang on here. And then it says, immobilized but conscious of the fact that Burke was the owner of the bag with the alleged porn stash, Loeb called the chief a name. Newspapers typically soften the word to pervert, and the feds say Loeb was mistaken. But in Loeb's telling of the story, a document in a video interview recorded for Newsday, he called Burke a pedophile. According to Loeb, when the chief heard that word, he exploded with rage, driving his thick fingers into the young man's face. Then it says here that he used to tell people that he wanted to become a cop so he could get away with breaking the law. And that's on James Burke. Darn it. It goes into everything that happened, but basically the dirty cop that was overseeing this Long Island serial killer's case just got busted doing his own dirt, just kind of like that, you know what I mean? All right, hold on here. Here he is. He's sentenced to 46 months here. So he did get found guilty from the whole Christopher Loeb situation and was sentenced to, was it? I'm trying to think how much. Yeah, he'll do all 46 as Fed time. So yeah, he's gonna do all 46 months. I don't think you get paroled time when it's a Fed case. All right, so we'll keep going now. You see, he got for that whole case that he was writing up about that boy that wasn't true. They found that and they started looking into other people that he had cases out against, and they found like seven cases that were compromised because of the kid, the things that he was into. But guess who else was involved? There's always someone higher up. DA at the center of the Long Island serial killer investigation charged in dirty cop cover-up. Suffolk County District Attorney Thomas Spada has been indicted for the obstruction of justice after federal probe into an alleged cover-up of practice brutality. What the heck? Police brutality and committed by former Suffolk County Police Chief, a longtime friend of the district attorney. Spada announced earlier this week he would not be seeking re-election. Oh, okay. It says that this just talks about him beating up Christopher Lowe, but it doesn't talk about anything else. Witness and obstructing an investigation. Witness tampering and obstructing an investigation. Oh gosh. All right, hang on. I want to show you guys something real quick because we're almost to the end of this, and I really want you guys to see everyone for who they are, not for this escort prostitute thing they like to slap next to their names. These are of Megan and Shannan, and I have another one that I'm gonna. That's why it says part 1. And I have a part. I have a part 2 that when I do the next video for these girls, I have a part 2 for other ones. I just wasn't finished with it in time to put it in this video. The next thing I want to show you guys quickly is when I started my channel about 6 months ago, when I was live streaming for the Kanika Jenkins case, many people wanted me to monetize and I wouldn't. And I normally wouldn't even have thought about it. It was not an option. However, I have decided to commit to doing this full time. I am trying to build a channel. I have 2 channels going, but right now I'm trying to build my channel up so that this can be a career that I can have from home. As you know, I have Crohn's, and so having a career outside of the home is nearly impossible. So, and I didn't ever apply for disability. It's a long thing story with me. I was a nurse for 8 years, so I don't want to ever have the name disabled and not be able to work again if somehow I miraculously am healed. However, I'm going to ask everyone to do me a favor. If you like what I do, if you appreciate the information I bring you, if you want me to be able to do this full time and you are committed to, I mean, there's lots of you that have said, Kate, your hard work is worth something. Well, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. My Patreon channel or my Patreon page is up. It's patreon.com/Kate420. You can go to it now and become a patron. I've set a couple of goals. I haven't put any, I haven't even got the chance to put up anything on there. I just launched my campaign. You can go see my Patreon video or whatnot. And pretty soon, the first goal is the first $500 I make, I'm going to start a special YouTube live series where I interview one patron every month on live stream, which I think that'll be cool. And I'm also going to have special material that is only for patrons that'll be posted on here for only patrons to see. So if you're interested, you know where it's at now. I'm still figuring out how to put the link in my description box because of the video recording source I use. It doesn't allow me there is no description box on the video screen sharing thing that I use. So once I figure out how to, I might have to go back into my YouTube and do it. But for now, please, if you're interested, pass it on. Patreon.com/Kate420. Become a patron and let's make this a permanent thing. Let's, become part of the everyday discussion that's going on out there. Let's keep names alive of people who once were getting calls for justice but are no longer, no one's any longer saying their name. That happens every time there's a tragedy. It's justice, justice, justice until the next tragedy. And then those people's names no longer are heard. So with that being said, justice for Shannan Gilbert, Megan Waterman, Maureen Brainerd Barnes. It should be Melissa. I'm sorry. I don't know why it came out there. It's Melissa Bartholomew. Holy cow. Amber Costello and Jessica Taylor, as well as the other victims that have not been identified. This is Kate420, y'all, coming at you. I'm going to try to get back into the live stream things this week. Now that I got my Patreon up and going, I've got lots of work to do. So if you want to help me make this full time, I look forward to it. Everybody, I will see you in the next video.